what I'll do is I'll kick it off actually with a quick question to you, Ash. Is what something that I saw from the chats as I was looking through the past week has been a debate about mobile or not mobile. So before we dive into updates, I'm interested to hear kind of what your perspectives are on this mobile debate. I know in V1 we had mobile fully working, running, interactive, all that, but you say the stats may not have been there. So definitely interested to hear the story there and kind of what you see in the upcoming in the future in terms of mobile support, mobile activities, interactions.
Yeah. So in V1, we had analytics watching like whether people are on desktop and VR and mobile, and mobile was by far, actually mobile kind of had maybe like 10% of active users were using mobile. That wasn't specifically huge, but it also wasn't extremely small. VR was probably closer to like 3% of active users were checking out VR, which is kind of makes a lot of sense. A lot of people don't have VR headsets and whatnot, right? So and mobile had still had a lot of users, but also we didn't really have any kind of like mechanic that said which worlds worked on mobile and which didn't, because a lot of people built worlds that were essentially for desktop GPUs. Like you needed a pretty big worlds, lots of stuff in them, not ultra optimized and whatnot. So yeah, kind of had that problem.
And were you able to tell what types of users, like the time that the user stayed in world, or was it just tracking like the amount of connections?
Yeah, we could dig into all of that information if needed.
Yeah.
There's nothing I remember off the top of my head. It was just in general. It was just like who's using mobile and who's not. The biggest issue with V1 is that you'd run into a lot of worlds that would just not like run on an iPhone. I think Android phones are really good because they'll just keep chugging along and they'll use up all the memory and like they'll keep going. But iPhone is like, I don't know what Apple did to their browser. Like they did this weird thing where they basically prevented anyone else from putting a browser on their phone, but they also made their browser terrible. And like it's so bad. I don't know why it ended up like that, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's just like for some reason an iPhone will only give you so much memory for a world, which just doesn't really correlate very well to digital worlds with lots of 3D assets and audio and stuff playing. So yeah, you end up with this weird thing where the browser will like it'll just for some reason refresh. It'll just refresh the page and you'll be like, what happened? And it's like, is Hyperfy broken? It's like, nah, it just needed a little bit more memory and iPhone wouldn't give it and it just gave in.
Imploded.
Yeah, it's super weird. I think it's less of a problem in V2. It still happens in V2, that refresh thing, but the way that V2 is constructed is a lot more memory efficient. So you'll get a lot more bang for your buck on mobile before anything goes wrong. Like, yeah, a good example of that would be Meta Rick's World, which there's quite a lot of stuff going on in there. There's like lots of audio, there's particles, there's like lots of meshes with lots of textures, but it's all really well optimized, but it still seems to run pretty well on my iPhone 12 Pro, which is like 5 years old now, so it works pretty good. But yeah, anyone who's got an Android would probably run a lot of worlds, no issues.
Yeah. That's a great test phone that you purposely have kept around to keep using, so that
I keep telling myself that these days, man, it's changed a lot. I used to get every iPhone and every Android upgrade. I remember those days where every iPhone and every Android that came out was really cool, like had way better upgrades, and so I'd buy every single one. So I'd be buying like 2 or 3 phones a year, just because like the tech was getting really cool. And now it's got to the point where it's like I still have this iPhone 12. It still runs really well. It's like, it's good enough. And I look at the new phones that are coming out and I'm like, what's the upgrade? There's no, it's the same phone. You just re-release the same phone over and over again.
Yeah, but the AI features though.
Yeah, that's true.
AI features. Yeah, definitely. I remember from V1 that the first thing, if people were having trouble watching a stream or getting audio or whatever, first thing is, okay, are you using an Android or iPhone? Because the streaming is wonky as well. But yeah, definitely would like to see the stats because everybody has phones, right? Everybody has these phones, and they're, when somebody tells them, "Oh, go visit this place or world," the first thing they'll probably use, their device they'll use, is the phone. So it is interesting to hear that it's not actually that many, and so definitely would like to get more data as to how people are, finding out, or how long.
That's an interesting thing to say, because like now that we have like an open source engine and it's distributed and properly decentralized and people can self-host, we actually get a lot less visibility on that front. But something that a lot of these kinds of like engines and stuff that are open source would do is have like an opt-out analytics that it basically just sends unidentifiable information home that says, these are the people using it. If it crashes, here's the logs and things like that, because we just don't have a lot of visibility in that. So that's potentially something that we could do. I haven't done it yet because, one, it requires effort, but two, it feels like it might be prying a little bit. I don't know. It's a tough problem to like kind of get a better view on that. I personally would love to get crash logs at least sent back home so that I can get some better visibility. In V1 we had that. We just, because all worlds were, centralized by us and hosted by us, so all the crash logs got sent to me and I could see everything and fix them as they go. But with V1 just don't have that visibility.
Yeah, HP dropped in here. Make it opt in instead of opt out. There's no prying issue. True.
I think the reason that usually people put it opt out first is because no one opts in. And so I think that might be a lot of wasted effort if it was because if it's by default, and it's not just because of the end, like the person installing it, it's because they might not know that it even exists. And when they're just trying to get a world running, it's like the last thing they're going to think is to opt into something that might be useful to the engine.
Maybe bundle it with a hyper beacon, and then as they have it running, they get little hyper tokens. Yeah, hyper token.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to figure out some kind of like mechanics there where you get rewarded for that kind of stuff, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that little side quest on talking about mobile, and kind of I think the logging. I'm a data nerd, so having metrics, analytics to see how people are using systems is, I feel, very important to drive where to invest and spend time on things.
The other thing is that I'm like 99% sure that there are probably, like 100 or so worlds out there that no one even knows about, that people are building and like creating and just doing. I think it's funny in communities, because I think that 99% of people are mostly, especially in a product that works, like it's like an actual thing, rather than a meme, is that 99% of people are just like passive. They watch, they read the chats, especially developers. A lot of people are just like, they are more passive than active, and you won't hear from them. I occasionally, like, for example, Doubtcraft was a good example of that. They built that full experience. None of them have ever talked in here, I don't think. They just on their own accord, like, watched the chats, learned about how to build apps and stuff, went and built a full experience, and then showed up in DMs going, "Hey, we built this," and I'm like, "Oh, hey guys."
Nice, yeah. Yeah, and it was pretty neat. Yeah, and I think Project 8089 dropped by, that he was sharing on the community, on the Hyperfy How call. I posted a link here. And so that was cool to see what he was building and experimenting with, and I think a couple folks jumped to support what he was doing, trying to get that into a Hyperfy world to make it interactive. And Bogey, I'm not sure if you want to talk a little bit about what you saw during the Hyperfy How, but it's similar stuff. Like, you have developers. We definitely want developers to step up and let us know what you're working on, what you're struggling with, because there's a really great group of people that want to help and jump on things. I know Boogie and Howie also wanted to help during that Hyperfy How session, and Umka as well. So, and Dr. Doge too, I think, as well. So do either of you want to talk about what you guys saw during that Hyperfy How session?
I actually, I need to catch up. I'm a couple sessions back. But
I'm sorry.
sure, that's okay. I'm sure Dr. Dirge and maybe Omkar or Kuma could probably back question.
Yeah, it was a pretty good call. I think it was one of the longer ones we've done there. And we ended up getting him set up, get him helped out, and was having issues with pretty much just going in from Blender, in a sense, and coming into Hyperfy. Some of the things that was going in, his issue in particular was the skybox he was having issues with. So what he was trying to do was bring in like essentially like a whole dome or environment, and not necessarily doing the actual HDR or stuff for the world, like in the lighting. Yeah. So once that was fixed and good to go, yeah, he was pretty happy about that. He's been cooking away there too. I don't know, he might pop in here in a minute. I know he's been kind of busy today, but yeah, it was a pretty good call there. Oh, there we go. We got Omk up here. Nice.
Yep.
What's up?
Omka, did you want to say something?
No, not necessarily. You invited me up again.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun going through like the Learn World. Bogey made a great learning, I guess you can call it like obstacle course, kind of guiding you through the basic controls of like going through Hyperfy and showing some tethering together different hypes that kind of guide you through a little course and get you familiar with like moving around. He wasn't with us on the call, but he put a lot of time into that. And then Valiant's been doing some super secret Raptor racing stuff, which is pretty cool to see. Maximus was I think you were Susan, the VRM, riding a mechanical Raptor through some waypoints or something. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Raptor Inception.
Yeah, Raptor Inception. So, and then Quan from Project 89 popped in wanting to do some collaboration, and kind of on the same wavelength as Valiant, maybe doing some NFTs in World and finding different ways to bridge with their community. And they're going to be working with like some AI agents and stuff as well. So they're excited to work with Hyperfy and want to like team up with different people that are interested in collaborating, kind of that off in the shadows working on stuff, but kind of coming out to be like, hey, can we get a little help? Let's do this. It was a productive call for not really having much plan other than showing the Learn World that we hope to continue to build on.
Yeah, and always constantly dropping hype files. I love to see when people are throwing their all hypes into the chat.
Hypes everywhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward a quick one here. This is funny. There. So that's an image of if anybody has more hype files.
I think it was from Metric. Yeah.
So then, Ash, question for you is what have you kind of seen from the work that you've been doing? How's Fallen going? Are we going to get more classes, or have you been kind of looking at different features that you're refining?
So the goal was in Fallen was to create some more classes and then improve it over time. I think like I can see things like a magic class and a range class being in there. I'm not sure, like maybe the level would change into something that's more suited to those kinds of classes. And possibly the ability to have some different skins and stuff like that. The one of the like small goals for Fallen was to add a centralized reward system as well on top of that. So basically you fight with Hyper and you're basically staking to win that, and you've got that risk reward system. But also being able to every time you kill somebody, you would get like another kind of token or coin, which was more just like a gem or something like that. And those gems would then be used to upgrade skins and weapon skins, different kinds of like maybe trail effects and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. And when you say tokens, those are like on-chain tokens, or are those like internal?
Just part of the, yeah, like basic ones, like, yeah, they just like the world would just have its own kind of like tracker of centralized coins. I don't know what you would call them, like gems, I guess, something like that.
Elemental gems.
Yeah, yeah. So every time you kill someone, every time you kill a mob, every time you mine a rock, you get one of these extra things, and those things would just be like, you would just use them to, yeah, I guess, buying more skins, upgrade classes, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the way I could see it working as well is that you could also, I want to say imprint, but maybe it's mint the stuff that you get, and then that becomes tracked on chain. That then you could then go to other worlds and say, hey, yeah, I bought this at this place, and now I can access this particle effect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be to the point where it's like, you know, one of the top tier things that you can buy with gems is the ability to mint an NFT or something like that. And that NFT could also have a hype file even embedded in it, so that you could take, and this goes back to that whole like Roblox and Fortnite style thing where it's like, you need to create like fun viral loops, and it's something that Roblox really can't do, because Roblox is essentially stuck to giving people, the only rewards that you can give in one of those experiences is an avatar, like a character, and they're cross-world. You can win one, like you could play a game and win an avatar or a character in one world, and then go and use that anywhere. But in Hyperfy, it's like, could be anything. It could be you go into Fallen and you win like the sword, like the pickaxe or something from there. And then you can now go and use that in any world. Like, you know, like it could be literally anything. I think that's one of the things about hypes, is that like you're basically making any digital item interoperable. It's not fully interoperable. You can't use it obviously like on any other platform, but you can use it within the platform on any world, self-hosted anywhere. It's one of those things, like I think I've mentioned that a few times now, but I think and I'm not sure if people totally get it yet, but I'll keep saying it, because I think that's going to be one of the biggest things, like one of the biggest differentiators between us and what other people are doing, and it's it kind of like has no limits.
Yeah, well, with that it's written in JavaScript is very good, is very cool, because that is a very baseline, you know, foundational type of script language that almost anybody, or even, you know, while you're kind of collaborating with AI, it produces that. It knows that very well, and it's like I've created a couple of pages for my work, and it like spits out JavaScript like no tomorrow. So being able to have access to, or the hype being written in that, helps quite a bit on that front.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, for sure. Well, Omka, what is this? You're just out here like building crazy things. Also, just on that, you built like a whole inventory system here. I'd be doing stuff. Did I dream that you posted a video of the code editor in World that had a whole like 5 or 6 tabs in it that did a whole bunch of stuff? I'm not gonna lie, I saw that once like a week or two ago, and like, I think about it every day, and I'm like, what was that?
It was all a dream. Yeah, I'm actually gonna team up with PZ and Limited MCP. Really? Yeah. So yeah, I did a bunch of work on the core UI. I did a bunch of refactoring and stuff too. So I kind of held off because I wanted to make sure things merged plainly, but I also did it without refactoring. But yeah, I don't know if I have a video of this. So I have yeah, I kind of did some stuff. I have multiple tabs in the code editor. And I have multiple Monaco editors. Also have snippets built in that are hype snippets. So if you
And the
type
docs,
something,
right?
and the docs that are searchable, and you can also bump the docs over into the hype file, and then there's an AI chat area that was waiting for the MCP, and then I moved like the outliner into there and expanded it a little bit, and just kind of created more of like a full IDE experience. Yeah, it's a little bit of alpha, I guess. Kind of been, I don't know. I'm halfway, like Ash is saying, you know, like okay, it's fun to jump in and engage and like maybe get distracted and stuff, but it's even more fun to kind of put your head down and build the cool shit that you want to build, you know. So
Yeah, there's that constant battle where it's like you want to build in public, but also let's just finish it and then release it so that everyone can be like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the little inventory thing that I just shared was actually in the last, I don't know, 10 hours or something. I kind of off and on was working on that. I got three hypes communicating, which was a good like reinforcement of getting the app send, app emit, app on, world on, like working the way I want to. And then you dropped that gem a few days ago or whatever about the world load model from URL, and I was just like, wait a minute, I can do that. And so, like you're saying, moving towards
that's how you're doing it.
I'm pulling. Well, I was just cloning from in world, which is cool in itself. But then I was like, it'd be even better if I could just pull from outside. So we tried one, and it gave a CORS error. And then I was like, I'll push some to IPFS. So I threw some up on Sriracha, and I pulled it from IPFS with the idea that the next step would be pulling the metadata from an NFT, so you can do your, like we're saying, the whole inventory would be displaying your NFT JPEG or whatever there, and then when you click it, you would be pulling in the model or the VRM, which is kind of a first step in helping out like Quan's project, and Valiant wanted to do some Raptors and stuff in the world, so I was kind of poking at that since the last tutorial call that we had. What is it?
That's really cool. I love that you're kind of using apps to make sub apps. Like there's some Inception stuff going on there.
Yeah. I've been trying to communicate things, so that like the little icon in the bottom left there is like its own little app, stays on screen, and then it pops up the inventory app, and then the inventory app, each one of those pops up its own description, but that's also what's triggering in this case, it was the B that I pushed to the IP. It didn't match with the picture, but the B is a little sub alpha, making a little bee pollinator drone game too.
I think you might be onto like, I don't know, this is probably slightly unrelated to what you're doing here, but I think the same thing could be applied to is that people have been talking about having like sublots in worlds. So like you own just this one section, and it's slightly weird because we already have this like build mode that gives you full access to doing these things, but there's nothing stopping you from creating an app that essentially emulates all of that itself. So you've got raycasting, you can see where things are. You could make an app where a non-builder can click that B and move it with the cursor and rotate it and do all that, because you're just building all of that stuff. So you could really have your own like I guess compartmentalized version of parcels and all of that kind of stuff, and you could limit the number of assets that could be used and do all that
exactly. That's part of the goal too. Like Factilians and Maximus were both like after the tutorial with Learn, like okay, now can I play with these hypes? Can I make my own little course? What do I do from here? You know, and being able to like offer those hypes in like a palette like we've been talking about to people is kind of where I started with this, and then figuring out the permissions part of it, or like partitioning, like you're saying, off some space and like controlling who has builder permits, or if a DJ wants to, you want somebody to be in charge of just music, or somebody wants a screen share because they're doing a presentation, but you don't want them to accidentally delete the stage. You give them access to just the screen, you know, or I think like these sub rules or finding ways around having to like tweak the core UI for the sub rules is kind of a mission of mine right now, because I think it,
I wonder if this is like kind of the Turing test for engines, is that you can remake the engine in the engine. Like in Minecraft, if you have redstone, you can build like an entire 8-bit PC with redstone in Minecraft, which is just like kind of weird. And then I've seen like people build the Game of Life. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, totally.
Like that kind of thing.
Doing redstone in Hyperfy a little bit. A little while back, and totally.
I think that's a good benchmark. It's like, can you build the things that Hyperfy is in Hyperfy in an app? Like you can do all of the build mode stuff. You can do permissions. You can move objects around. You've got raycasting. You've got all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think it's 100%, but it's probably pretty close.
It's getting there. You know, there's a few things but that's part of the fun, in my opinion, of things not being perfect and being in this like opportunity to be in this like nice community where we're all learning and testing and tinkering together, because you're like, well, it's not doing what I want. I'm gonna figure out how to make it do what I want. And that's where you get crazy things like Doge coming up with left field, like wouldn't even think of its shit, you know? And there's this thing.
Doge has a knack for thinking outside of the box. It's kind of crazy.
No, that's good. But yeah, those kind of some things. I didn't really look that hard for a video of the US stuff. I guess I do have it somewhere.
Yeah, Dr. Doge has to think outside of the box, because inside the box is Popeyes. That's what happened.
Absolutely. Get the surf and turf. Every day, little shrimp and chicken.
So just like backtracking back to we were talking about mobile before. One of the things that did happen the last week, I'm pretty sure it was in the last week, was adding. I made some minor UI changes to Dev. That reminds me, I'm going to get our release today. Like straight after this, I'm going to do a release from Dev to thing, because I think we have maybe 2-3 weeks worth of stuff in Dev that needs to go back to main. But just on that, so mobile controls, I've added jump and interact. We didn't have I did a quick version of jump and interact on mobile, and that ended up being like just to get it going. And then I started playing around with it. I'm like, this is crap. Let's do the full thing. And so I spent some more time and I figured out the UI for that. So I made some changes to the way that chat and stuff works as well. So if you've ever seen mobile worlds at the moment, the chat was in the bottom, took up the entire bottom of the screen, which obviously conflicts with the ability to have all the buttons for mobile controls like jump and interact. And if you're building your own game with your own UI buttons and stuff like that, there's just no room. And so what I've done is the chat is now more. There's the mobile has a compact version where you basically just see one message at a time at the top of the screen. So it'll just briefly show up and say this person said that, and then a couple seconds later it'll disappear. And then at the top of the screen is now where all the buttons, like the menu and microphone and VR buttons and stuff are. And there's also a chat button on mobile, and that's how you open up the full chat. You can scroll through it and stuff. So yeah, just little things but it still took me a bit of time to just kind of get that right. But it now means that we can have a big jump button with an interact button and all of that. And it's kind of nice because the interact button kind of only shows up when you're near something, near an action in the world. and it's kind of the way that it's shown is like in such a way that you could add different buttons. Like if you like in Fallen, for example, we don't have this yet, but in Fallen we would be able to have the extra buttons around the main button for the different attack types and like charge and stuff like that. And I think in the future I'd want to add an option just to remove that the default buttons, which I think is something that Roblox does, where you have this concept of buttons and you can just add them to the screen, and Roblox automatically will put the buttons on the screen for you, but there's always an opt-out for that stuff. So you can just be like, nah, get rid of the default UI, because I'll add my own jump button, I'll put it here. I'll add my own interact button, I'll put it here. And then obviously the API for world building will have hooks into like triggering those things. So yeah, sorry, I forgot about that when we were talking about mobile controls.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, Ash, are you a secret Roblox developer, world builder?
I mention a lot of Roblox because I think that I'm like deep in metaverse. So when people talk about things like Fortnite being the metaverse and Roblox being the metaverse, I like to keep tabs on those kinds of things. I think they do a lot of things right, but I also don't. I also think there's a lot of things that we're trying to do that maybe they don't think of or just aren't able to do yet or something.
Yeah, I know a couple months back you had mentioned it was like they also have similar problems that Hyperfy sometimes encounters, and they solve it in one way or another. And you know, it is true. Keeping track of how people approach and solve problems at scale helps inform. And Akuma, I brought you on if you wanted to speak. Not sure if you got dropped, but Akuma, if you'd like to speak, you're more than welcome to. Umka, thank you for giving us like a 5-second tease of that, and you sped it up. So I see you. I know what you're up to. But no, I'm definitely interested in that multi-tabbing and being able to just not leave the screen. I think that is something similar that we're looking to achieve, is just you're always in the world. And that could be the Turing test, is how much can you do from within the world? Or if you're able to hype and build hypes with hypes and order Popeyes, then I think you're all set, right? So, Kuma, did you want to mention something?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? While Ash was on the topic of the mobile touch buttons with the jump and the interact, I was thinking the interact button. How would you feel about having that on the actual interact icon instead? Because I feel like that's the same size as the thing.
Yeah, I took the low hanging fruit here as opposed to that option. I think that that could work, but it might conflict with other things that people are trying to build with their world. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, it's totally possible. And the problem is that there's already two things that are happening when you click that. So you've got the left-hand side of the screen as your movement, and the right-hand side of the screen is your like turning the camera. So there would have to be some kind of like logic that's like they're not doing either of those two things. They're actually clicking the action, and so I don't know. It might lead to false positive clicks on actions or something. Like, what if you just expected to move the camera a little bit, but you accidentally clicked on action? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I've seen that before in other places. Maybe I just need to research a bit more.
I'm guessing that's why the jump button is actually a button and you don't just tap the screen to jump. Because of the conflict. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having the tapping the action as well. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, maybe it's slightly cleaner experience, but that's probably me just being a bit picky.
Yeah, maybe.
I got a question kind of about this too. I think it might have been a couple of pushes ago with the UI. I guess maybe when it was with the mobile stuff. I noticed the mic icon and the little drop down settings like for your menu. You know, was that like intentional, like for the movement up to the top there, or was that something that got added to dev as well? I guess maybe versus mobile.
Yeah, on
Please-
dev, those buttons are at the top now.
Yep.
I think the biggest reason I did that was because on mobile it felt weird to have all the buttons at the bottom. And I was just looking at a bunch of other platforms and stuff, and they're like, yeah, we have it at the top. And I think that makes sense because usually you just have like, you might have a health bar and then action buttons and like all those kinds of things stay at the bottom.
Nice.
I want those buttons at the top to be as minimal as possible. Like, I think ideally it would just be one button, like the menu button, and that's where you would toggle on the microphone and stuff. But the reason I left the VR button is out of that and next to it instead, because if you're in WebXR, I think it should probably be like prominent. You should be going straight into VR.
You should know, yeah.
And when there's a microphone option, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of easier. Like especially if you want to like push to talk or something like that. Right now, the button's right there, and you don't want to keep opening the menu to toggle that. Which reminds me, I still need to add push to talk. I want to have like P or like, I don't know, some button that you hold down or something, like tilde key or something to toggle microphones.
Maybe is there, speaking of that there, I guess as well, I know we've got a lot of different buttons, different keys, and you could set different, like, listeners, you just kind of helped me with that not that long ago, getting stuff set up there. But is there like a current up-to-date, I guess you would say, like, control list for in Hyperfy for anything, you know? Like, I know we've got it here on, you can see it on the side if you hide it, you've got, you know, whatever grab tool things, but I know there is a lot of stuff that could be programmed, right? Like the 1 through 0 keys, that kind of works. But I've noticed sometimes other ones don't always work, even if you change it and have it in the code. Like, is there a list of ones that could possibly be, or is that just something on user error, I guess, on my part, and every key could be essentially used? Or is there like a list of those that are...
There is a list.
Better
If you, I can send you a link that in the core there's a buttons.js file,
Okay.
and it just has all the mappings from keys and the names of the keys that you reference them in the app.
Nice.
It's pretty comprehensive. I'm pretty sure it covers everything. I could be wrong. You might just have the naming of it wrong.
Could be, yeah. And there's sometimes some things like overlap, and I'll try to use it just to a different key, and then O doesn't like to work, or the I doesn't always work. It's, yeah. So I didn't know if that was always one, especially for hiding UI as well. I got a lot of different custom things there that pop up, and I know I could, instead of having to just comment the code out or do stuff like that, trying to have something that toggles all of that, as well as, you know, like the Z key toggling on and off the initial regular built-in UIs. So,
Yeah.
good.
PZ, I think did you figure out your mic?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yo, how's it going?
Hey, yeah, I'm good. So, I just want to give a little bit of background on, like, there's two schools of thought regarding, like, AI integration and AI assistance with Hyperfy, I think. Like, one of them, which was where I was at before, was using tools and services that people already pay for, like Claude and Cursor. Like everyone like pays like 20 bucks a month for them or whatever. And use Hyperfy like true MCP clients to MCP server, I mean, to leverage AI in that way, right? So a few days ago, Sauri hit me up with this idea for like a button, like a mini chat app that would be like the opposite proposal of that would be doing AI from inside Hyperfy, right? And there's pros and cons for both these approaches, but what's really impressive with this button approach is that it's so seamless, right? It's so simple, and he managed to leverage like since he built like a tiny chat client that was integrated with my MCP server, then it would update apps on the fly, and it can like read all apps in the world to to use as examples and stuff like that, you know. So I'm planning on I'm basically gonna update the MCP mod and maybe make like some videos and stuff to make people to get people to use it because I think it's really good, a really good approach right now. Uh, Either both on cursor, which was what I was doing before, or this new approach. I'll probably release a few days down the line because there's still a little bit of work to do. But basically, um, in this way, people would have to bring their own API keys, right? So that's what's different about it. The costs would be more unpredictable for the user, but at the same time, it's like it's more seamless. Like for instance, I think that people like Vox would really appreciate this approach because it's really, really, really low code. Like it's almost like you can just with enough apps on the library, with enough things for the AI to search. That could be either the snippets that Umka was talking about, or apps themselves inside the world. The AI can do quite a lot of stuff. Like I prompted it for it to like remove all the Solana integration from Pollen, and it did like in one shot. So
That's cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have the button for AI that pops up is basically just a light client that is just sending and receiving messages from the MCP server, which is sitting next to the world server.
Yeah. It's like a tiny like chat client. Like you just like it's from the Anthropic API directly, and it has like a tiny MCP client that receives all the information. And yeah, and the MCP server now it's feeding the scripting rules document as a resource as well. So like if you don't want to use like the AI button, you can also continue to use like Cursor and Claude. Well, I had problems with Claude for desktop, but Cursor worked for me. But I need to look into Claude. But yeah, you can use either like your own solutions or this more integrated thing.
So most of the time is what are you seeing in terms of accuracy from prompting? Like, are you seeing that the majority of the time it will one shot everything? And if it doesn't one shot, how does it does it have any kind of way to recover if something weird happens there? I mean, obviously, most of the time it's probably just going to red box the app or something.
Yeah, so one thing that I was thinking about, like yesterday, was maybe if I could get it to read the console logs from the apps, you know, maybe it could like identify that there's an error. Most of the time, the error is like, oh, it used dot on update instead of dot on parentheses slash, you know, most of the time the errors are like that. And then maybe
training issues.
Yeah, and maybe if it could like see that the console goes like, oh, app.onUpdate is not a function, maybe it could self-correct a little bit. Because Cursor does that kind of, you know.
Yeah. Like in Claude, if you try to build something and it tries to preview it, it catches the error and it's like, oh, I just got an error and I need to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of, even without MCP, I think that's something that the call could do, which is capture the errors and show them without needing to have the console open. I think that like if an app errors and it's caught in the context of the app, that the code window in world should just show the most recent error that's popped up or something. That way you just don't need to have like the freaking Chrome dev console open all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically to sum it all up, I was all on board we should do scripting from outside Hyperfy before, and now I'm not so sure. Because
I'm on the same page.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing because it's an interesting thing because like I think with Dapcraft and feedback from Peasy and Sarah and stuff as well is that we just don't have like coding in world is really good. It's fun. It's interesting. And I think I kind of see this myself in that there's just no way to track revisions and progress of an app. And make you get it to a good point and you're like, all right, this is a good one. Like, can I just copy paste this somewhere so I can come back to it if something bad happens in the future? And I don't know, there's something about that where it's missing. So anyway, I mean, in chats, I need to get back to this, but Dapcraft have given a lot of feedback because they're building as a team. So they're like basically a game studio in like a nutshell. So they have separate designers, separate developers, and even a product manager that's kind of like putting these things together. Actually, I don't even know if I should be talking about this. I'm leaking out a lot of information that might not shouldn't be out there. But I mean, I'm just in general, like if you are more than one person building something, you kind of have this problem where you can't really control like revisions. You want to be able to put that stuff in Git, and the way that the core engine uses hashes for files is not a very good like Git friendly system. It's great for caching and immutability, but it's an issue with that. Anyway, there's a lot of technical stuff going on there, but yeah, I just wanted to point out that like if anyone runs into that problem and something that's being worked on, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it and getting like feedback from other people about what their suggestions and stuff are.
Please give us some clean URLs.
I think the
Hash
only
is great for security and stuff and certain things of that, but like especially when you're trying, like you're saying, to go through and clean up, or like you get into that one good version and make sure the other ones aren't in there before you world clean and stuff. Oh, it's a mess. I mean, I don't know who's going through the world assets folder when you accidentally nuke your world because you did something stupid in height, and then you have to like dig through.
Just on that, if you do nuke your world, like you're doing something. I mean, first of all, that shouldn't happen. If it does, report it so that I can like send me the app that does it so that I can make it fix it. But second of all, it's always going to happen because there's always going to be something that's being missed, like as the engine evolves over time. But it's just going to get rarer and rarer. But when it does happen, something that you can do is there is a one line that you can comment out in the core, and then just start your world up, and it will run it without the scripts. And I want to make that if anyone wants, like, I will pay somebody $100 to do it. Make that a parameter, like a URL parameter, to turn like safe mode equals true or something like that. Like if I go to a world and I put !, safe mode equals true, that it won't execute the script. So in apps.js, there's a thing called script.execute. If you just disable that one line, you'll be able to get your world running, even if it was like if you like got a nuclear version of it. And then you can right click it and you can edit the script and get rid of that thing that you just hit save on it that screwed it up. So yeah, I'll pay someone $150 to just put that parameter on there so it's easy to load a world in safe mode. I think it's useful.
Is that basically like pinning?
What's that?
Is that like pinning basically on when you pin an app, but instead of pinning it, you're also turning it into like a safe mode app that can always run?
Oh yeah, it basically just runs the whole world without any apps running their scripts, which is similar to what Windows does when you reboot it into safe mode, right? Like it reboots it in safe mode where nothing will like start up and run properly, so that you can, like, if you've got something that the same problem exists on Windows where you can install software like that is just completely hogging your entire CPU, but if you reboot in safe mode, it kind of turns that off.
Oh, I see. So you can access basic things like script. Got it.
Yeah. If your world's completely
blueprint script area. I have a world open right now, so I just went straight to it. This world uploader gets
if you look for script.execute, it's in app.js and it's somewhere near the top where it loads in the build or load function or something like that. It goes script.execute.
In a similar question, I was digging into like the permissions earlier. I know we were talking about like the meta making workarounds with hypes and hypes, but is it feasible to add other roles?
You just cut out for me.
Than maybe what this call's normally for?
He cut out.
Okay.
I'm going. You cut out. Yeah.
I think you're back.
I'm back. I was kind of saying like a side but similar to what we were talking about earlier about doing like the meta height workarounds for permissions roles and stuff. I was also trying to dig into like the use permissions JS and see, is it feasible to add, like fairly easy to add like another role as admin or builder that is kind of this in between, that's just like I don't know, like more than your average user, but maybe like part of your temporary access crew or something if you're
Yeah, like there was a word for it, I think, that we used in V1, which was like, you're not an admin, you're not a builder, you're just kind of like an extra person. Damn, I can't remember the name of it. Just on that use permission stuff, we have this concept of like an admin and the builder, but I don't think the builder role has even been used anywhere for anything.
No, I didn't.
And
it didn't look like it.
Yeah, it's basically just you're either an admin or you're not. If you have an admin code, then people are admins, but if you don't have an admin code, then everyone's an admin. But yeah, it just needs more like fleshing out. In V1 we did that like different levels of permission, and it kind of got like super weird because I think everyone wants it to work slightly different. So like at this point, I haven't really thought much about it, only because I feel like it doesn't matter what I would decide, somebody would want want to use it in a different way. Yeah, we expose whether an app can see if a person is an admin, which is kind of cool because it means like the screen sharing app that I did, for example, added a permissions property. You can say who can use screen sharing in a world. Whether it's just admins or if everyone can use it. And the app itself can then check if a player is an admin and then be like, nope, you can't screen share here.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how I would want to use it too, as far as like events and stuff go. Like these 5 hypes people can play with. These are free. Don't touch everything else. Oh,
you can open the store if you're an admin. You can get on the stage if you're an admin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Cool.
Yeah, I'm open to ideas there. I think the nuance is that everyone has different ways of doing it, and what they expect. I got a like short list of things to talk about, and I'm just trying to like nail them as we go. App palettes. I heard that Sari was going to do something about that. Whether that's happening or not, I don't know. Maybe he's just doing his own thing. But I've been building like a couple of small apps to play around with that, but mostly just looking at how the best way to like fit that into the system and trying to figure out what the UI is there. And I haven't landed on anything like solid yet, just got a couple of ideas. And I'll just continue working on that as we go. But that's one of the bigger priorities that I have. There's two, I'm kind of like doing a little bit of work on vehicles right now. I've got like this full-on multiplayer like car with drifting as good as GTA 5 going with like tread marks like skid marks and smoke when you lose traction and proper burnouts and donuts and like real drifting. And that's just something I've been like playing on a couple hours a day. And I'm kind of being stealth. This is like super. I haven't mentioned this to anybody. I think I showed a video to like 2 people. But I'll push that out soon. But it just got me thinking about like the future of like Hyperfy and digital objects and stuff like that. And I think that the platform really kind of like lends itself to something that nobody else has really ever done, which I think is digital objects, like this ability to create and encapsulate a single hype app file that has everything in it, and it can do anything. Like we've got people building apps for mounts and like Susan the Raptor, and with these cars that we're working on. There's just like so many little things that are all encapsulated into this concept of an app that you can then take that file and put it in any world. And I say this all the time. I repeat this. I feel like I repeat myself all the time, but to me, I think that's like super unique to what Hyperfy is doing, and that's something that nobody's really done. Like Unity has the concept of prefabs, which is similar to that. The biggest difference is that only developers and like technical people use Unity, whereas Hyperfy is not just for technical people. And if you do get your hands on a prefab that you use in Unity, you still need to know how to hook it up. You need to like be able to edit the code and like make some changes to the way that it works to get it to work in your world. Whereas in Hyperfy, you can just drag and drop that thing into the world and it'll just work. And with properties on apps, you've got the ability to configure and like tune or change the way that those apps work. So I don't know. To me, that's just like a general North Star. The engine could do so much more, but to me, it feels like that's numero uno in terms of differentiation and being completely unique, and something that we can offer to the universe that doesn't exist anywhere else. So like. Yeah, I don't know if everyone else agrees, so I'm just going to kind of like listen to feedback on that. But to me, that's just like one of the biggest things.
How is this differentiated from the bringing your own script type of stuff? Could you explain maybe the difference there? I know early on we had
Bringing your own script.
Bringing in your own hype file or your own capability to go to a world and bring your hype with you. I know you had mentioned where somebody could whitelist and assign script or hype file.
Yeah, that might actually be one of like the smaller details that is probably quite super important in that. Like I mentioned this yesterday, I think it was in a mod chat. I kind of like was just trying to riff and get this summarized into a couple of dot points and the best way to explain it, and I think I kind of nailed it at that point because I tried to explain this many times to people and I think they get lost. But basically, like, yeah, I think let's take vehicles for example. So let's say we built like a 10K collection of these vehicles and they had a whole bunch of traits and you mix them all up and there's lots of them and people can mint them or get them at, like maybe we gave them away to hype file holders and whatnot. First of all, you've now got like this hype file that you physically own, which is not like renting a streaming service or Spotify. You don't really own it, you're just kind of renting it. But this you actually own. You can have it, it's yours. And since our engine is open source, you can freaking run your own world and do whatever without any of our permission. So you can do all that. But the thing is that I think is unique is that all of those vehicles can be signed as a collection with cryptography. We can use like a public key, like a key pair, where I am the collection creator, or somebody is the collection creator of all of those vehicles, and I sign all of those apps, and I'm like, they're signed as this. But then there could be a world, anyone who is creating a world, they could go and build their own racetrack, for example, or they could do like just a nice hangout for vehicles to like go do drifting, like a drift course or something like that. And I want people to be able to use those vehicles there, but I'm not going to give everyone build mode because they'll just go and delete all the buildings and like fuck up the track and do weird stuff to the world. Like I don't want to give them admin controls, but I do want everyone to be able to take these cars and drop them into my world and then go drifting in them or like race them and try and get on the leaderboard. And so that's where the signatures come in because the idea is, and I've spent like a couple hours of this looking at this yesterday on how we would do this like implementation wise, that a world can just have a simple list of public keys for the collections, the signatures, the public keys of those, and that will then allow anybody to drop those apps into the world. And the signatures are based on the hashes of the app itself, and so people can only drop them in. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's like really technical, but that's the gist.
I would.
It,
I think that's what Quan wants to do with Project 89, especially in the Raptors. And yeah, it's great. I think it's the way to go.
yeah. It does sound a little bit like security of bringing apps, modifying apps. So I'm definitely for it. Yep. Go ahead, somebody. Dr. Doge, I think you were going to say something.
Oh no, I think I'm just in here. Oh, I think my mic was just here.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely so essentially being able to through those signatures. Yeah, I'm we're making memes on the chat. And so with that, do you foresee those objects also like being able to just like tune them, like customize the height, so you could bring your own.
So the idea is that like you'd be able to change the properties on the app that the developer that made that app exposes to you. So maybe that's just colors and stuff. If it was a 10K collection of vehicles, you'd probably not have any option. Maybe there's an option to change the text on the license plate. You know what I mean? Like something simple like that.
Like a garage height or like a mechanic height that handle that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. You could have apps that interact with that. So you could have another app that goes with it, and that'll let you like tune the car or like change all the stuff that's in it. There's so many like ridiculous things that could be done here.
Yeah. So and now I'm realizing
I posted the like paragraph or so of how I explained it. Basically, if you go to a world with your like car and you drop it into someone's drift world that they made, it will drop it like a regular app, and then you can go drive around. But you can't then go and delete the buildings, and then when you leave the world, you take all of your things with you. So that car would despawn when you leave the world as well, and so it wouldn't be a permanent thing.
Yeah. And then you mentioned like being able to edit the parameters that the developer allows you. That I do see being super powerful because that means that you can customize certain elements, but not break the game basically.
Yeah, and the developer gets to choose what level of customization that people can have on those.
Yep. And then
Would that be like further customization than app configure stuff, or do you see it kind of being at that level?
Yeah, with app configure stuff. Yeah. So you would just choose what those fields are, what you want to let anyone change.
Nice.
But like, you could have something simple like I've got a fire. Let's have a campfire world where everyone brings their own campfires and seats, and someone shows up and you drop down a campfire and you change the color of the campfire to blue, and then everyone brings their own seat, and I'm like sitting on this seat, and you've got your own freaking seat, and I don't know, just there's little things like that. Where it's like you could just whitelist an entire an entire publisher or an entire collection of apps, and you could be like, look, I don't care. You guys can bring. I know that freaking Vox makes the most optimized assets, and so I know that I could trust all of the apps that he makes. So I'm just gonna say anyone can drop anything that Vox makes in my world. Because I know that no one can grief with that. No one can come in and drop down something that's going to destroy the world or be really annoying. Yeah.
Same with like Matt the Empire. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's slightly off topic. What's your thoughts on using Hyperfy as an animation toolkit to create animation videos if we have better? Yeah, because obviously with Blender it's limited, but if you're in like an open world game, if for example Rockstar has the Rockstar editor, you can create sort of quite high end animation, and I think that with Blender being with Hyperfy sort of limitless, I'm sure if there was recording like a sort of Rockstar editor recorder within there, you could create some sort of high-end footage, is what I'm thinking.
So
very good animation footage material for sure.
Yeah, so in V1, a couple of people used Hyperfy V1 for like production. recording videos and stuff like that. Riyad Rastin did a lot of really good like high-end footage. Boombox had always asked for really good camera systems. And I think we kind of are halfway there with a good camera. But the problem with V1 was that you were locked to like the apps that we built, and that was it. That was it. Like if we didn't build it, you couldn't really have it. You could build custom apps, but like they were just I don't know. There was some limitations there, and it wasn't easy. But with V2, we now have like this huge toolkit where it's like you could build production tools. Like in Rockstar, like editor, you have the things that Rockstar gives you for GTA, like the camera tools and all of those things, and they're pretty good. Like they're great, but you can't change them if you wanted to do something different. With V2, like the idea is that you could create those tools, but then anyone could make their own variations and improve them and do all that kind of stuff. And since they're just apps, you can just like bring them into your world. So we have the same sort of like kind of problem with editing in that people didn't like the idea of running around as a person, moving objects around, because that's more like game feel. But for a serious builder, it's like they just want to be moving around as a camera, like some kind of virtual camera, like in Blender, you know, or Unity. So we just dropped an app, and that was a drone. So now you have this drone app that you just walk up to the drone, and now you can fly around like at high speed and do all your building while in that mode. And so you could basically take that drone and retrofit it to be a really good smooth camera interpolator that's specifically made for like recording high def like footage of a world and do it that way. But you might also have apps for lighting and other things like that as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that can be built off sort of a camera editor. I'm guessing no one's built exactly this yet. Is Doge's drone and how his camera angles are they the closest thing we've got, or is there something else?
Yeah, exactly. You've got those camera systems and stuff are really cool, and like the follow cam where like if you're idle for a while, it'll start following a random player and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, cool. Ash, was there anything else you wanted to cover, hit upon? I definitely feel like we're right there.
I've covered most things. I would just say like I'm keeping the Solana the rebased up to date as I go, which I'm doing it manually for now, but like it takes like 2 seconds. And I've been making lots of little core changes and bits and pieces along the way. What am I? Oh yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, is there anything, shout outs to the community, anything you'd like to see more of? See, especially people coming out of stealth. There's a lot of folks in stealth that would be nice to see what they
There's a lot of people working and stuff, and it's fine. I'm like, it's funny to see like the things people are building. I'm like, share it. People want to see this kind of stuff. It's really cool. It's inspiring to see what people are building, because then they go and try and build their own type of things, and you know, it's just good for the ecosystem in general. I love seeing. I love hearing, personally, it's a weird thing to say, but I like hearing about the problems people have because it makes me think more about solving them.
Well, we are
if I don't know there's a
time,
problem, then yeah.
So we are at time here. I definitely want to let folks go back and start building, get back to building again. So appreciate you all. Thanks for making it for this week's session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good one indeed.
Yeah. Keep sharing videos, please. That's the one thing I do want to ask everybody. Keep sharing your videos on the chats of things that you're sharing. Thank you.
Be there, Joey. I just need to trim up. Later, gang.
Two.
Bye.